Hello and welcome to Talking Europe. My guest for this first episode of 2024 is the European Commission's point man on strengthening the EU's social dimension and making sure that workers and job seekers are well supported. Nicolas Schmit is the EU Commissioner in charge of jobs and social rights. His high-profile career has ranged from being Luxembourg's permanent representative to the EU, Luxembourg's Minister Delegate for Foreign Affairs and Immigration, and Minister for Labour, Employment and the Social and Solidarity Economy. He joins me from Brussels. Commissioner, thank you so much for being our guest and welcome back to the programme. We're 6 months away from the EU elections, and I'd like to ask you first, if I may, about your own political ambitions, because your name has been mentioned as the possible lead candidate for the European Socialist Party. Is there anything you can share with us today about that? What's the latest on that?
Well, I think that the procedure is ongoing and probably in a relatively short time we will know more about it. So I'm reluctant now to comment on that. As I've said, if I'm asked to take this job, I will reflect on it and I can say that I will accept it.
What do you think that the left, what do you think their messaging should be in this campaign?
Well, to be brief, I'm not the only one to draft the program, but I think that we really have to address people's concerns. And the concerns are about their purchasing power, the impact of inflation, the stability of their jobs, certainly also security issues. We are living in a very dangerous world. Now we have, as Europeans, to take this fully into account. The Green Deal, I think this is not an invention. This is, as many Europeans just now are experiencing, is a reality, a difficult reality, so we cannot just deny it and not act. So I think there are a lot of very concrete topics, and that's what we have to discuss and convince our citizens that we need a strong Europe, not a Europe divided or nationalistic one, a strong Europe based on solidarity, which can cope with these issues.
And speaking of solidarity and social protection, a deal was struck a few weeks ago on the so-called gig workers or platform workers. So, for example, food delivery, bike couriers, people like that who've been seen to be in quite a precarious position. But that whole deal is now being held up by France and a series of other countries. You must be a bit disappointed about this blockage after, given that there was 2 years of negotiations which led up to the deal.
Well, I cannot hide a certain level of disappointment. There had been a hard negotiation also between the Council, the Presidency, the Spanish Presidency, and the European Parliament to achieve this agreement. But unfortunately, this has not found a qualified majority in the Council. Now, I fully trust the Belgian Presidency to relaunch this negotiation, to explore where the difficulties lie, and to find the right compromise. I know that the Belgian Presidency is very committed to find this compromise, because it is absolutely necessary to agree on the right measures to give these hundreds of thousands or even millions of workers, gig workers in the different areas you have mentioned, social protection and labor rights and fair working conditions. So I think this is really a challenge, and we cannot disappoint them.
The minimum wage directive obviously has been a big feature of this current European Commission, and the transposition of the minimum wage directive into national legislations. How far do you think Europe has come on that question in the last 5 years of this commission?
Well, now the transposition in the member states is ongoing with a deadline at the end of this year. So we are discussing and also assisting member states in this process of transposition. But what we notice now, especially in this period of higher prices, of higher inflation, many member states have proceeded to increasing the minimum wages in order to guarantee the purchasing power, especially of the low wages. So I think this is already an impact the directive has had. So I think that this is a process which I think is very important, also in the context of stronger social and wage convergence in Europe. We cannot build a Europe with, on one side, higher wages, better wages, and on other parts in Europe with low wages and bad working conditions. I think here we need better convergence, upward convergence. And that's what the directive is aiming at.
Skills has been a very big part of the last year. It was the European Year of Skills 2023. I'm wondering if you have any particular takeaways from that program that you would want to build on in the last few months of your mandate, particularly when it comes to retraining people, because there is still this problem of the long-term unemployed in Europe, which is very persistent, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the European Year of Skills is going on up to May this year, so it is on both years, and I think that our first evaluation of the impact of the Year of Skills is quite positive. First, because there is a strong awareness how important training policies, lifelong learning, and this is also a very strong reference to Jacques Delors, because Jacques Delors was a very strong promoter of lifelong learning. And that's what we need now more than ever, because we are in a period of major technological transitions where jobs are changing with the green transition, but also with the digitalization of our economies and societies, by the way. So I think what we have now to do is to keep this momentum, because this will not end with the Year of Skills. This is a process we have to sustain for the coming years.
A question about Ukraine and the refugees that are now working in the EU. As you know, the Temporary Protection Directive has been extended till 2025. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts of the impact of Ukrainians that have come into the EU onto the labour market and the long-term prospects for them. How do you see that?
Well, the numbers are quite important. You know that nearly 8 million Ukrainians and the biggest portion of our women and children have come to the European Union to seek protection from this barbaric war of Russia against their cities, their schools and hospitals. This is the first point. I think we need to keep the solidarity with the Ukrainian people very high at all levels. Now, about 4 million have asked for the temporary protection, and a lot, about 2 million, have got a labor contract, so are working. Unfortunately, there is margin for improvement here, because many of them have difficulties to find work, but also to find work at the right level, because we still have difficulties to identify their skills, their competencies, to recognize their diplomas. There are doctors who cannot work as doctors because we do not recognize their diploma, although we have, as we all know, shortages here.
Does that lead to what you just said? Does that lead to social dumping if they can't work at the level that they're supposed to be, that they then get paid less?
No, I would say I would not exclude absolutely that there are cases of social dumping, and I really appeal on member states, but also on all kinds of services to combat very efficiently, and also on social partners, employers, to combat and unions to combat this social dumping. The point is that if you have a diploma, if you have a certain level of competence, well, the fact is that we have not yet a level of recognition of these diplomas in the EU countries because, there's not an absolute correspondence between Ukrainian diplomas and EU ones. But we are working on that, and this is, I think, a very important element, not only, by the way, for the Ukrainian refugees, but also in our own interest to use people's skills at the right level.
We'll have to leave it there. We've run out of time, but thank you so much for being my guest, Commissioner Nicolas Schmit, and I'll be back after a break to continue with this edition of Talking Europe. So do stay with us.